let's have a topic. Go around the room, get everybody's sort of thoughts on that specific topic. And naturally, as I said, look, if you have something to say, you want to jump into the conversation, raise your hand. We'll pick on you if you don't. Um, but please, yeah, let's just jump into the conversation. Let's share thoughts, because we've got some incredible thought leaders in this room alone here, bringing diverse perspectives from various different experiences that you've had with sales. Let's merge it all together and see sort of where we end up. The first thing is, Tracy and I were having a conversation a couple of days ago, and thinking, look, okay, everyone's saying AI is going to disrupt sales, it's going to disrupt sales. Fine, it's coming, but what does disruption even mean to us, right? What is disruption? What do we want to see from disruption? Because we leave AI in the hands of, the guys in the bay that are really, really clever, and they're going to make like a million tools, right? And then you end up as a salesperson having a selection of tools. You've already got tool fatigue. You've already got too much there. You're not using half of the tech that you've got. Is that really the way forward, or should we define what our biggest problems are and start thinking about what disruption should look like within our roles, what needs to be changed, and then create a tool around that specifically? Is that even possible? And what does disruption look like? To me, disruption looks like, and a good change would be an AI tool that doesn't just do stuff for me, doesn't just write my emails. It makes me better as a person. And that obviously goes back into coaching. And Fred's probably got a piece to say on coaching, right? But when it comes to coaching, I've had tons of coaching. But how much of that coaching, A, do I retain, or B, do I trust? Because I can go and sit with Fred, for example, for like a week, but I have my way of doing business. I know how I close deals. I know my customers. I know my landscape. Fred doesn't understand my landscape. Fred has his, unique way of selling, and he's going to try and teach me. And naturally, there's a million things that you can probably teach me that will improve my style. But how much of that am I willing to absorb? How much of that am I willing to? And that's, I think, where AI can absolutely change the game. And that's probably why I'm starting on that. So yeah.
First question I'd ask you, Azim, is define sales, right? Because not one size fits all. AI could work in a call centre just now. It could work with BDRs, arguably. Will it work with a key account manager? Maybe not yet. Will it work with a middle grade IC? Possibly in parts. So depending on what you're pitching into who, I think you need to work that out. Like, what do you mean by sales or salesperson?
No, I absolutely agree. What is sales? What are we doing? What is our role? Roles change from persona to persona, from company to company. An AE at Gartner doesn't do the same job as an AE at Workday. A lot of the stuff is similar, but it's not exactly the same. What's your patch? What's your territory? What's your ICP? What are they looking like? What are their main concerns? And are you able to effectively solve their problems? I mean, yeah, that's going to open kind of worms.
I was well. You're obviously correct, but I was aiming more at the level of selling or the type grade. So I don't want to say in a hierarchical way, but in some ways, yes, it could fit a high volume, lower level.
That's great. And in what way do you think it can fit transactional sales? So we're probably talking mid-market SMB now.
Yeah, but what I mean by that is tightening down the definition of sales, because I don't think one size fits all. Just I suppose say what I said before, that the technology already exists within call centres, right? Which people are selling, so they're salespeople. But what's the distinction and the differentiation between someone who's a key account director? He's maybe got a target of $200 million a year. So it's that range, it's that gap. That's what I'd suggest.
And how does sales actually change from a B2C call center where I'm selling something for $10 as opposed to selling something for 2 million? It's a complete different ballgame. But yeah, that's really interesting. We need to define that if we know what we're going to do to improve processes. Very, very cool. Let's move on to Jamie. Jamie, you had your hand up for a while now.
Yeah, thanks. I think, and I would imagine that this is shared, but it'd be really great to get everyone's view on this, is that talking to different business leaders and certainly working within different business and sales environments, is that there's a huge disparity between those that are doing it incredibly well and those that don't have a solid sales strategy or prospecting strategy. So I think one of the points that I've learned over the years is that, when I worked in my first job in recruitment, I had this is going to show my age. I had like a Rolodex and a telephone, and it was phone people, Jamie. It was just like, there was a little bit of training, but there wasn't a great deal of like thought into it. There was a company in this area, call them, they may have a recruitment requirement. And as I got into working for Student Beans and helped scale them from a £1 million business to 15 million over 7 years, is that they had a much more structured way about business development. So you tier people by size, by different sector, by different persona type within them. So there was a great deal. And then I thought, okay, well, I know my way around this. This works really well. And then I joined Go Certify a couple of years ago, another sort of high scaling startup technology business, and their level of data and what they did was mind blowing. That like I absorbed a lot of that information very quickly, because it's something which I thought, this is why is not everyone doing this. It just made like common sense. So I think almost like to David's point around like where are we in the market, I think also within the market is who's doing it well and who's not, and where would this be beneficial from. So I didn't know whether that was something that people had a view on, and would share their thoughts based off of that.
I think you're absolutely right. If we want any type of tech, any type of AI, we need to get our house in order first. And I'm finding that a lot of companies, especially in the smaller segment, startup scale-ups, they just don't have their house in order. They don't know what the best processes are. They don't have a repeatable sales motion, a great go-to-market strategy. They barely segment their clients and their data. AI is only going to help you if you're already somewhat good. You know what you're doing. But if you're quite bad and as an organization, you don't really know what you're doing, and you completely going down the wrong road in the wrong direction, use AI there, and it's going to have catastrophic effects. It just augments what you're doing, right? If you're good, it will make you better. If you're bad, it'll have tremendously negative effects. But yeah, I'm sure there's a lot of thoughts on that in this room. Tracy.
Well, yes, I have a thought on that. And then I have a
Yes.
thought on disruption in general. But I think we're at an AI and sales roundtable. We're talking about disruption. I think a lot of times people assume that disruption means technology. And as you said just now, Jamie and Azim, like this, we can't go about automating things. I mean, we can go about automating things that don't work, but then what is the point? What is the value? What is the outcome? What is the output that we're looking for that automating a broken process isn't going to do? And so when we talk about disruption in sales, and then we add in that level of AI, I think it's interesting to look at how is this more than automating a process, right? Automating outreach, that's something that's very common in AI for sales. And if you're automating broken outreach, okay, great. You're sending 1,000 broken messages instead of 10 broken messages, which I would actually say from a marketing perspective is a terrible plan because now more people are having a bad experience of you than less people. And that is not good. So I think when we look at disruption on a grander scale, we do need to look at this is more than the technical piece of it. And sure, there might be a technical something we can do down the line, but how are we disrupting our current interpretation of what sales is? And then the bigger reason why I think disruption is needed is because we're not reaching the output we want. If we were reaching the output we want, if we had the sales funnel that we were all hoping for, no one would be talking about disrupting sales because everybody would be fine with how everything is going. And so if we're going to talk about disruption, we really need to look at how are the things that we are doing impacting the reason why we intended to disrupt in the first place. If we need to improve our funnel, if we need to get more clients, if we need to get higher value clients, if we need whatever your sales funnel problem is, the disruption should match that so you improve what isn't working for you right now. And so I don't think there is one global definition of what disruption means. I think every organization needs to look at it at an individual level and say, okay, what is not working here? What might we need to disrupt? And what kind of processes, systems, technology, people do we need to make that disruption possible?
Makes a ton of sense. Makes a ton of sense, Tracy. Thanks for that. No, I think you're absolutely right. I think, do you know what? To add to that, even if you have your ducks in a row, even if you have all of your data in place and you have great sales leaders, you still need people that are willing to execute on that. Do people like me or Adam on the front line have the ability or the time to personalize every single piece of outreach that we send? It's another thing, right? Because I see time and time again people on my team, people that I know that are like, okay, cool, I've got 500 prospects here. I'm not going to go through the whole list. Maybe it's laziness, maybe they just want operational efficiency, but they will stick everybody in a mail merge.
But can I just jump in there? I want to let other people talk, but I feel from a marketing perspective, I really need to say this. When we talk about personalization, right? Personalization is not everybody using the same script and putting someone's first name in it. Okay? That's not. And for a long time in marketing and sales, we've had this dependency on scripts. And what if there was a way to personalize your outreach, Azim, or your outreach, Sarah, or your outreach, Jamie, so that it is personalized based on how you would talk to people, but it's still generic to the level that you can reuse it. And so you can speed up your execution. That's a thing, but it's a thing you have to want to look for. Thank you, Sarah, for all the claps.
Yeah, no, let's pass over to Sarah. Sarah's next now.
Yeah, thank you. I love what you just said, Tracy. And we have several people in the room who's done a lot of training, right? And I've done a lot of training too. And I think one of the things that I would like to disrupt very personally now is the box that we have decided that salespeople should be in, and then try to push all of them into a box that has to do, because this is one of the main reasons why we take a concept, personalized outreach, and then we ruin it with AI. Like that's literally what's happening now, right? Instead of taking a concept, I mean, imagine going into your new role as an AE. Let's say you went from SDR, you come in as an AE, and you have an AI bot who starts by saying, look, so I would like to know more about how your personality works. I would like to know more about what type of career you would like to have, so that I can help you be more you in the interactions with customers. I will also teach you the methods and the things that the company you're in right now is using as we go throughout all the meetings you're going to have and all the intros and all the conversations you're going to have. But we're going to look for two things: method, the things that the company is doing right now when it comes to Medic or Bant or whatever the fuck they're using. And we will also look at how authentic you are in the meetings, because one of the things that is being ruined now by AI is personality, and people buy from people. And we seem to have forgotten this fact, both in marketing and sales, for a while now. And for me, coming also, because I was 4 years at an agency, I worked a lot with marketing campaigns. We are trying to, so I know my buyer persona, right? So I will speak their language, but then they meet you in a meeting and they're like, I did not at all expect you to be this way. So because of that trust disconnect that becomes out of this, I won't buy from you anyway. And this makes it break in the sales cycle. So even if we have a great starting point, we book a lot of meetings, but we don't sell. Like, this is a challenge when it comes to the output we're looking for. And when you were talking now, Tracy, I just wanted to, yes, this. Because I think this is super important.
Absolutely, Sarah. Absolutely. Yeah. So I think it's not just the processes and the coaching and things that we can teach AI to then teach our reps. It's allowing AI to understand us as humans and only augment the parts that need augmenting in the human. Bring that personal touch out. I think we might be talking sci-fi in terms of the art of the possible, but look, I'm going to do my best. Let's see what I can do in that domain. But hey, really interesting, and our thoughts are definitely aligned there. So let's go to George. George, you're on mute.
Great. I don't like Teams. So A couple of things. So I agree with both Tracy and Sarah on the personalization side. I want to say one thing that in my view, what AI is doing today is helping us do more of the wrong things, more mistakes, more aggressively, faster. I don't think I get a lot more spam. I get poorly personalized emails. And poorly personalized emails for me is like tipping 2 cents. It becomes offensive. You're personalizing it to a degree that is offensive to me. So you might have as well said hello there. Like it does the opposite of what you think it does. I will be a bit contrarian to what was said before. I think that sales fundamentally is not that different from segment to segment. I think discovery, helping people do proper discovery, will always be relevant from SMB to enterprise. Holding a good pace and keeping up rapport, things that we discussed as when it comes to the possibilities of the tool, will always be important in variable degrees, but still there. What I would love to see is something that I think we haven't been able to dig into in any training that I have ever been part of as an employee, which is what is a baseline? What should I be doing? Where if I do these 10 things right, not more, not less, this fucking 10 things correctly, then my results in time will come, right? So I don't start to despair that I'm because everybody that has ever sold in their lives, you know that you can put 10, 12 hours in and you don't even know what you're doing wrong or right. You're walking around like a headless chicken. And that's very much a leadership problem. But I've seen, and Azim, correct, you will need to excuse me now, but if we are to pull punches when it comes to sales leadership, I think we have failed as a profession, salespeople in general. This is why people out there are 37% of them reaching quota today. That is an indictment on sales leadership globally, in my view. So putting a boilerplate of this is what a salesperson needs to do, and then you can enhance on personality augmentation that Tracy and Sarah talked about, on enterprise that I'm sure I can chime into, and I don't remember names, but there was a guy that he had even more years than me, and build into different tracks. But putting a boilerplate together, because even when you're the best CRO, the best head of sales that has ever been, once you start recruiting over 6 people, you're screwed. There is no shot you can sit and listen to recordings. There is no shot you can listen to do disco calls or primarily course correct. It's not even the coaching. It's not after the fact. It's in the meeting. We're losing deals and we're losing money. We're leaving money on the table in the meetings. And if you're not there, you can't catch it. Yeah. I've been doing advisory for a while. For small companies, I tell them, so go to the meetings with your reps. As many as you can. But for as much as when it scales, it's not possible anymore. And this is where I think that we can put a coach with at least boilerplate knowledge into everybody's screen to guide them to at least not damage their pipe, if not build it. Yeah, that's it for now.
Super interesting take there, George. I'm sure David's probably got something to say about, is a discovery call the same when it comes to SMB, enterprise, mid-market?
It's not the same, but it's the logic. The logic is you're still trying to extract data. So you can't talk 80% of a disco call. As an example.
Yeah, I mean, I've been a 4th level sales leader. So how connected was I to the people on the ground? Absolutely not, right? So, but I did pitch up at meetings. So sometimes the discovery is a wee bit different. If I went to see a chief executive, FTSE 100, about 15 minutes, right? Even though I wasn't at that level, but I was still a senior leader in my organisation. So your discovery is very different. I think AI can make a difference in the discovery, but a lot of it comes back, and Tracy just touching on sort of that personalisation within marketing and all that as well. First sales job 35 years ago, my boss said to me, he says, remember, he says, this is before the internet and mobile phones, which might not apply to some of these, He says, remember, he says, you're investigative journalist first. He says, find about your client, find about their business, speak to them. He says, you've got a level of knowledge. When I've been in a position of a buyer, I used to get pissed off with sales guys. I mean, they turn up, they knew nothing about me, they knew nothing about my organisation. They were just focused on what they were trying to sell me. And it may have been the best thing ever, but I would never buy it. Right? So there's a range there. And maybe flipping back a wee bit to what I said earlier, in terms of your business design, because I'm guessing what this is about, obviously, is it's just narrowing that into where you can get the first traction. What's the biggest problem area first, and how can you address that? And then you can look at some of the other things. I think this is a fantastic general conversation because it's the first meeting, but I suppose it's working out what you want to do with it.
Absolutely.
That was a rant there across a whole host of different areas, but there you go.
Thanks. No, thanks, David. Let's move on to Fred. Fred, here we are.
No, this is awesome. David teed me up. I'm just gonna say what he started saying even stronger. But he actually started saying it at the very beginning.
Yeah.
Because let's define sales, and I just started scribbling some bits and pieces down, and then we've all talked about, not just on this, but we see so much talk in sales about doing stuff to people. How can we do sales to people? What can we do? How can we make them be discovered? And how can we reach out to them? And it's all this stuff. And we're like, me, my stuff, my process, my way of working. And perhaps the disruption isn't anything to do with bloody computers and technology and anything. It's in our own heads to go, actually, the mindset should be shifting from let's try to stop flog our crap to, can we help people actually think? Can we help them to make sensible decisions? Can we help them to buy and get the outcomes that they're after? Now, in some places, I think that is a disruption. It's so sad that we should call it that. And if we start thinking like this and going, hang on a minute, rather than having heads-up displays with what's their personal style and what's this and what questions I ask and because you can work that out as a human pretty well, maybe we can deploy the AI somewhere else, start getting it to help us to think, what do we actually know and can work with this person about, and trot up and just be the real human we are, better prepared and better ready to have those discussions that David and I used to have before we had mobile phones and faxes and stuff, but because it did work then, and it's worked for years and years. So, are we trying to do all this sexy stuff because, we want all these things and be like Terminator? Maybe it's a different area to look at, or maybe it's just a Friday afternoon and I'm a bit tired and grumpy and whatever. I don't know. So that was just the thing that I thought, that we get so into this, like pushing what we are trying to do onto people, and like the people are turning up the outreach. We said this the other day, didn't we, Azim? Genius sales leaders saying, yeah, we're going to do more because no one else has thought of that.
Yeah.
We're going to personalize things because we're going to put their name and their job title. It's like, come on. There's probably a different area we could completely go down, and so everyone's going, these people are amazing because they turn up like better.
I think the introduction of technology into sales leadership has done more damage than good, because I'm pre Salesforce or whatever else you use, MedPick, or these kind of things. I generally think for a period of time it's done more damage than add value to the sales process. So maybe AI, in whatever way it comes in, gives the opportunity to right that wrong.
I have a question. We just based off of that, and this is why I've perhaps chimed in. So I imagine we all get sold to at some point, right? Fair assumption. How many of the people that sell to us have enough knowledge to get into the next part of the conversation, or to get somebody onto a phone call? I suspect it's very low. I suspect it's probably sub 5%, right? Right. Okay, right, great. Thank you, George. Right, so I was
going to be nice and say 1, but
okay. Right.
No, I could actually name the person that did, if you want me to. She was awesome.
Right. Sure. Okay. So the reason why I asked that is that I hate being sold to. I think as a lot of people do, right? Because you see it coming a mile off. You see the direction, the questions, the trying to be building rapport and what have you. But I think if you were an AE or a BDM and somebody was, and I can probably count on one hand in the last few years how many people have really got this right, is to arm them with And it's not to change the personality of the salesperson, but just to arm them with enough information from an AI tool that allows them to go in. Actually, Jamie, I saw that you wrote a piece in such and such a blog, and I was really interested in, and actually probably your time in the business, it means that you're maybe suffering from these things, and came educated. I think that's a piece which is sorely missed in the sales arena today. My 2 pence.
And they actually read the piece that you'd written, not just knew that you'd written it because I told them.
Exactly. Yeah, that level of personalization. And the reason why I reference that is that Go Certify, the business I was in till recently, they do that to an enormously successful degree. So it's not just based off a persona, but actually they're scraping data from the technology platforms that a particular brand, Nike or Adidas or Gymshark, whoever, is using, and then saying, well, actually you're using this, but actually probably what you're experiencing is an extrapolating data to show the size of the opportunity or the size of the cost of what they're currently doing to allow them to sell effectively. And that's, and like I say at the beginning, that's something which I had not come across like prior to this, and something which is an absolute game changer. So, but that's, and going back to, I think, Fred, your point around, like, I think people can do that. I would say in the main, people aren't that inquisitive to try and gather that. If someone was presented, a salesperson was presented with that information and said, look, here's all of that kind of info, and then present that in a way that is meaningful and articulate to the prospect, surely that has to be better than what we have today.
Yeah,
I absolutely agree. Thanks for your input there, Jamie, and welcome Lex. Well, I haven't even welcomed you to the call yet. Lex was in the trenches with me. We were SDRs once upon a time, and now that we're talking about automation, he's the guy that taught me how to mail merge to thousands of people with generic messages. Thanks, Lex.
I didn't say generic, mate. It's got to be strategic.
It was always generic, but yeah, cool.
Tactical people, come on.
Alex, so the rules of the game here, man. If you want to speak, you want to contribute, just stick your hand up, your virtual team hand up, and I'll call on you. Yeah.
Fantastic.
Cool. Just sit back, relax, and enjoy. Liron, hi. How you doing? I didn't call on you for an introduction previously because I know you're on your phone, etc. But yeah, welcome. How are you?
Hi everyone. Nice to meet you. I think I had a few calls with Azim. 20 years in marketing and sales, enterprise sales, B2B. I have a lot to say about what you have already spoken about. I've been a listener here, just in the car. But I'll wait for my turn. I raised my hand and I'll wait patiently.
Yeah.
No, Adam and Imran were before, so I'll wait.
I get a number. I think it's you or Adam. We can.
It is.
It
is you.
So
it is you. You're number one.
All right. Listen, a few things that I had as a VP sales, like as a challenge, was that I had salespeople in different territories, right? I had Australia, I had US, I had Dubai, and I had UK. And with each, I needed to create a context, not only to the segment and the vertical, but also to the culture. And for me, working 24 hours in all the regions to recruit them, when I built this machine, the challenge was, yes, Sarah, how you said about coaching them, but staying in all the calls, I couldn't even listen to recordings, even if they did it. And then making sure that they have the right context. Now, with a sales cycle of a year in a B2B enterprise sales, and you have multiple people that you need to speak with, pre-sale is a heavy lifting, job, right? And you can't bring your pre-sales to every call. So first, I'd like to have something to help me in the exploration phase, to like something like you spoke about, Jamie, to come better to the call. So I'll have context, and context is the word for me. I'll have context and I'll know what to speak with this guy, what might be the issue. Personally, I just set a team of Intel ladies, 5 people that helped me go to every logo very prepared. So even the SDR went to understand exactly what to speak about. And, we released some of the energy wasted in the process by just being very focused on what to say and to whom. And then when you do these calls every other week in a sales cycle of a year, Sometimes you bring your pre-sales because you have technical people. Sometimes you prepare for legal. Sometimes you prepare for this and that. And not all the time you can really have the entire team with you. Sometimes it's just you and the other person, the point of contact, which is a decision maker, asking you questions about challenges and implementations and things like that. Now, being very experienced with a solution, you can definitely take these questions and, by the relationship, promote the deal. But if you're new to the company, not a new salesperson, but new to the company and don't know the corners and how to answer, if you don't answer on the spot, I think, Fred, you said it, you might leave money on the table there, on the floor, if you like, because you didn't answer in time or you didn't know what to answer there. And a co-pilot can help us by analyzing what the customer is asking, connect it to the other data we have from other customers, maybe highlight use cases we can mention as we speak, and help us, with the hurdle. So for me, if I'm thinking about sales processes and $1 million deals that take almost a year with a heavy pre-sale and exploration phase that need to be properly done, I would use a system at the beginning and during, this journey.
Very interesting, Liron. That's pretty much the value proposition of Velocity AI. So thanks for that. But yeah, it's cool to see sort of how it would be used and how valuable something like this could be, but actually what other sort of tools are out there as well in AI that are creeping into our space that are doing things differently to sort of my value proposition. Because the art of the possible is massive now. So how do we control that? How do we think about
and
sorry.
No, I fully understand. I agree with Tracy and with Sarah. One of the startups that I'm advising to today is related to digital health, right? You have a doctor, he has so much information, and you want to narrow down the time that he is spending with in telemedicine or whatever, and you want to highlight what's the problem, what might be the solution, what is the medicine you want to give or something like that. And this is where the focus is currently, on analyzing the context, giving the doctor the context in other industries, and not, like Tracy said, just doing more of the same but easier, or automating, maybe optimizing the approach process. That's it from my side.
Great, thanks, Liron. I think Imran, you're up.
Yeah, I think there's some really excellent points being made by all the people on this call so far. And just coming back to Liron's point there, actually, for me, context is the most important thing. I got an outreach the other day from somebody saying, "Hey, we can help your organization," and they put Workday down. I'd left Workday in June. "We can help you be more successful in getting more customer wins in the public sector. We see that you've just won a piece of work at the MOD." I would have normally just not even bothered responding, but I sent a note back saying, "Excuse me, I stopped working at Workday. I'm on a sabbatical at the moment. I left in June. By the way, we've not won any work at the MOD, so I'm quite intrigued where you've got that." And I got complete silence from them. So context is really important. And up until recently, we'd been working with an organization who were helping us basically improve our knowledge and understanding of opportunities in the market, through public procurements and what have you. And again, they've already started embedding AI in their tools for helping us prospect. And I looked at some of the stuff that had been done. Some of it was interesting. It provided more context, examples of the pain points and the challenges that customer was facing. But ultimately, they also pulled out things that weren't particularly accurate as well. So whilst at the moment I see it being useful, obviously it's not the panacea for all ills, and it's not this silver bullet that's going to help us improve our sales conversion rates and improve our engagement and the quality of our engagement with our customers. I see us using the existing frameworks and processes that David mentioned, stuff like MedPick. We all know that they're very formulaic, but they do put a framework in place that allow your salespeople to follow an approach. But ultimately, what I've seen the best salespeople are the ones that put the investment in upfront on research, analyzing the customer, their pains, and putting the groundwork in, rather than just firing off speculative emails which are half-baked, which don't have context or a level of understanding or intelligence around the pain points. And I think if you can get AI helping drive more insight into that process, you start to see better conversion rates. I think that those are the points I'm going to make. I think everyone on the call has made a really valid point about how they use, what they want to accomplish through better AI tools. And I think it's going to be a really interesting journey for all of us as sales leaders as we see new technology come in, and there'll be moments where we will put our hands over our eyes and cringe at how bad some of these things are, but there may be moments where we get delighted. So learning curve for all of us, I think.
Absolutely. Thanks for the input, Imran. I think what I'm hearing time and time again from speaking with all sorts of sales leaders, and actually it's popped up a lot on this call today as well, is when we talk about AI in sales, it's like our mind automatically drifts to top of the funnel prospecting. What are we doing wrong? So it's always, is my messaging contextualized? Am I getting enough people in the funnel? I think, look, if you're getting people in the funnel, cool, that's fine. You're having intro calls. How many of those guys are you actually selling to? Are you equipped? Are you capable enough to hold that intro call, to hold that discovery, to go into demo, to go into propose and negotiate and actually close? I think there's something to be said about the entire process and the ability of salespeople today. I think that's something that we should also touch upon. And that's something that AI is not supporting with so much yet, but it will. But yeah, we'll get into that. Adam, you've been waiting an awfully long time, mate. Thanks for your patience.
I was wondering when to interject anyway, because like George, I think I wanted to say some maybe mildly contrarian things, but also like David, with the zoom out at the beginning on sales, I thought that was useful, but I would also like to just posit a few questions at people if we zoom out on AI. And so depending on your politics or your mindset or where you get your podcasts, AI is either going to kill us all, or it's going to usher in a new era of human flourishing and creativity. Either way, we ain't working in either of those scenarios, right? And so depending on whether you're looking at a McKinsey report or Deloitte or something else, the further you go in the future, eventually, if sales is going to take over telemedicine and we're going to trust it to drive our cars, you can be damn sure it's going to be doing sales. And I think to your point, the sales process in that scenario is probably going to look very different. Someone said something, I think it was Sarah, about how people buy from people. And when you said that, I looked around my room at the things I've acquired over the last 12 months or so, things I've bought. And I think the only involvement a human has had in that was the delivery guy. Like I'm not buying stuff from people, at least in a B2C context. And I think that even with SaaS and enterprise sales, the criticism companies get for not having clear pricing models on their website is because it is less about buying from people, and there's this whole movement towards buyer enablement instead of a sales process. And so I'm curious what you guys think about whether or not this conversation we're having about AI augmenting sales is just a little golden period of time that might last a few months or might last a few years, because eventually AI is going to make even this conversation redundant.
Can I respond, Adam?
Please.
Because I love this question. Thank you. Okay, so when I talk about these things, because I've talked to a lot of sales leaders, and I've also sold to sales leaders. When I say that people buy from people, in my head, I'm already 5 years ahead of time, and we're talking enterprise only and above, because everything else should be online. The idea that SaaS who sells for like 100K a year, it shouldn't be bought online is insane to me. But I already think about that as something that is done for. So when we talk about SDR work and stuff like that, and putting putting AI tools in SDR hands, I don't think we're going to need them. So I don't think that's the point. I think the point is that when we go through a heavy sales cycle with a customer where we have 10, 15 decision makers, and it's a huge project for the company, having an AI engine at the end of that sales cycle to tell you after the meeting, by the way, it looks like this person, this stakeholder is not engaged in the conversation. You should reach out to them now, and you should talk about these things because you dropped that person in this meeting with 10 people. That's where I think AI will bring a lot of value. And I also think the pricing point will be very different. And we can also then coach on how to be authentically you in your senior enterprise AI role. But everything else I don't know why I should have made that clear. I see that as something that's already passed. I think we're grasping onto straws thinking that we will need SDRs for SMB or AEs for SMB moving forward. So just as a point, I should have made that clear.
But even still, so in the context of those bigger ticket sales, do you think that, and enterprise level sales, do you think that the human is always going to be required, or as time passes and automation and AI does actually get better, is the actual process of buying something going to make people irrelevant? Because like a person, like for me, if I had work tomorrow, I might be showing up a little rusty compared to normal because I'm going to have a couple of whiskeys, and AI is never going to have that. It's never going to have a bereavement. It's never going to have an off day. It's never going to wake up late, to the point where the processes that we use that run commerce might change to the point where humans aren't necessary to capture the people who have become disengaged on the sales process. They won't need human intervention because AI is going to be better at doing all of that stuff anyway. They won't be like, I don't envisage that AI is going to be, you know, an avatar of a person powered by AI. Like it doesn't need to fake being a human.
No.
But however AI goes about doing those things and addressing the problems that we're talking about now, maybe we can't even really imagine what those solutions would look like because the AI is not good enough yet. But I do fear that it will eventually make all of this kind of redundant.
Obsolete. Yeah.
I think, Adam, you've really got to put the buyer hat on for a second as well there, mate, right? You've got to really think, cool, we fall into this one-track mind when we think sales, and we think, okay, let's look at it from a seller perspective. Put the buyer hat on. You went and bought everything in your room through, you know, Amazon and all of these analytics, and probably like loads of adverts being thrown at you saying, buy this now, do this now. Fine. That's B2C. That's a decision that you make in your mind for something that's small. It doesn't cost you a lot. There is not a massive pain that you're solving with anything in that room. Whereas if somebody's about to spend £5 million a year on a tool, they've got genuinely a huge problem to address. And it's not just them. They've got teams that then report into them. Then those teams have people reporting into them, and everybody's got a huge pain. And you've got to be really collaborative with understanding that pain. That's the job of a salesperson. You can't just sell to one person in an organization. You need to understand, what does this mean for the COO, CIO, CRO? What does this mean for so many different people? But really put the buyer hat on and think, okay, as a buyer, I need to really evaluate this tool. Am I going to pick something online? And I think it goes back to what Sarah's saying, right? I think sales is only going to work in the long run for large enterprise deals. Mid-market,
assuming the buyer is a person and also not another piece of AI.
Even now we're just talking about, 50 years, or maybe it's not 50 years in the future, right? But
I think you might be surprised.
I don't know where it is.
We should have started with this question because I saw some IBM numbers about what they sell from a server perspective. I think it was $500 million that sold online. So I think Adam is onto something that we should have started with. Next session, only about this.
Absolutely, next session. Let's do it. Okay, cool. So still going around the room. Eye on time. Liron, hand up. Let's go.
Just a small comment about what was discussed now. I think that once you have customization, you can't really automate this. It's not a customization of a B2C. Do you want another layer or another feature? it's a customization of how do you implement and how do you help them, and as many users you have in an organization as complex cell it is, and not just one user or 2 users that are going to use it, then you're probably going to need a person there even in the future. And I think you also, Azim, spoke about the buyer. We want to trust someone. If I'm buying from someone else and no one is actually in contact with me, I don't know, maybe it's a psychological process that we're all going to have in the next 3 years, but I want to know someone is behind the keyboard, someone is behind this computer, and I have someone to speak with in a $5 million deal. So customization and trust, I think that's the 2 things that will keep the enterprise sales here, and we need to help them in the process.
I think you, as a buyer, you also need somebody to blame and somebody to throttle if something goes wrong as well, right? So there's that piece as well. So no, thanks for that. Tracy, I think I skipped you. Sorry, you were on another screen. Let's go over to Tracy.
That's okay. I just want to make a quick note here because I think we should deep dive this in an additional conversation because we're coming up on our hour. But one of the things that I keep coming back to is, why are we buying? And so if I am buying a bag of chips, or I'm buying a new computer to monitor, or I'm buying a new mug or something, there's like little stake that I put in that game, right? So I feel like when there's a small stake I put into the game, I don't care as much about that human relationship. But when there is a human reason when I'm buying something, so I'm thinking about buying a house, right? If I'm buying a house, not everybody does this, but I want to look at the house. I want to go in the house. I want to see how it feels. If I'm buying a car, I want to drive the car, right? And so while those things aren't particularly people, there's an experience that goes with my confidence in buying. So I think there's a relationship there to be explored in when do we need a human confidence piece as part of our buying decision from a human brain perspective, and when do we not? And how can AI support in those different arenas? Because we can't pretend that Amazon is not huge, and that especially because of the pandemic, a lot of people buy a lot of consumer goods online. But I personally am not very attached to most of my consumer goods. I am, however, attached to bigger things. I'm attached to the coaching services that I buy. I'm attached to my car. I'm attached to my house, these big ticket purchases. So I think there's maybe a human psychology component that is relevant from the buyer's side in terms of what we want from a sales relationship.
Absolutely agreed. Who was the next thing? Liron, you've already been on, so let's say George, I think you're next, if you want to jump on. We've only got a couple of minutes, guys. Have we? No, we're actually running up to the hour. So yeah, George, run with it. Take a minute.
Yeah, I just wanted to complement what people have been talking about, and I will try to keep it short because I really want to have some whiskey too now. So the point with enterprise, and you're absolutely right. There is a human connection. There is the trust element, and there is the ability to blame somebody for customization, for things like that. I agree with all of that. But I can see to a degree some of that being automated. We've seen early buyer journeys. Actually, Sarah worked on a chatbot company before, where the early buyer journey can be automated quite efficiently from a time perspective, and also match the market to what Adam was talking about, that are clamoring about, we want prices online, and we 4 out of 5 people hate salespeople. They just don't want to talk to anyone. I was sitting with my CTO behind his chair when we were buying SMS bulks for our service. So big purchase. We found a good company that we know were really good. They didn't have prices on the websites. We moved along. There was no discussion. So I understand that this is there. What I think we need to consider is the ability that good sellers have to move people, to motivate people, to get them inspired to build new things, to expand, to improve business models, to reach and to expand their way of thinking and work on ideation. So I worked with great founders in my career, and when I first sold to Coutts in England, for instance, from a very small startup out of Sweden, they didn't buy technology. I have all these testimonials to show you if you want. They don't buy technology. They don't buy what we can do. They don't buy even what the service can do for them in the next year. They buy vision. They buy where the business can go, how we can work with them as an advisor, where things come later. So they trust us. They trusted me as a vendor at the point that I have my ear close enough to the rail in the industry to be able to prevent the business risk. So these are intangible things that it's knowledge that also comes from talking to people. An experienced enterprise rep knows the industry because he talks to people. He's not relying on public reports. He's not relying on press releases. So there is nothing that the API, the AI in the future can fetch. You can't fetch locker room talk. So these type of intangibles when it comes to human interaction and the high ticket items, I think will remain. And training people to be able to be on that level will be crucial, because I agree with Adam, everything below that will die at some point.
I think sprinkling AI on our already broken processes definitely won't work anyway, right? But to your point, that locker room talk, a lot of us know and understand, and we've been in those scenarios, so we know and understand what's said in those sort of conversations. If we can start feeding that to AI and creating like a really smart machine that's tailored to your organization. Now I'm going to just talk about velocity again. That in and of itself can be super powerful. I promised myself at this call I'm not going to talk about velocity, so I'm just going to stop there. Well, look,
see, that's that human error again, mate. AI wouldn't have done that.
AI wouldn't have done that. No, maybe it was deliberate, Adam. Maybe I just wanted you guys to just think about velocity as you leave. You with your whiskey.
I can also tell you that the same type of info delivered by AI, I think we all hear to some extent because of communication with you, right? Yeah, there is something there. If that same info was delivered by a bot in whatever format, you are here with very senior people investing time on a Friday afternoon with no immediate gain because you have a vision, right?
Yeah.
And that's exactly what I'm talking about.
That's it. That's that human connection that you just cannot replace.
But also, what got us all here, right? Just saying.
Excellent. Lex, you've had your hand up for a very long time. You're jumping in. You can't freeload here today, mate. You can't just come in and listen to everybody's insight and give us nothing back.
I was just thinking, where I see AI in the future is things that are doing with reducing speed to get information, respond to information. That's where AI would take over. But as everyone said, AI doesn't craft a sales story or adapt it on the fly. It doesn't help bring in like relevant people and teams necessarily. It doesn't know people in the business. It can't do that human-to-human connection, how things still work. And if anyone's ever used Salesforce, we know how good the data in Salesforce is. And if it's AI's had to pull off a central source of truth, it's going to be flawed anyway. Half my job is battling how bad Salesforce is. So I think there's a lot to be said for AI can help us with getting information from the internet and things quickly and applying them quickly, but we still need to build those blocks into a story that will meet our customers' needs.
I get it, Lex. Salesforce is rubbish. There's no data in there. But you know what? Let's not talk about AI extracting crap data. Let's talk about AI jumping on your call and doing your CRM update for you at 100% accuracy. So, not now, but in 6 months, you have Salesforce that actually works for you. That I think is powerful. It's happening, mate. It's happening. I'm not going to talk about it. I'm not going to talk about velocity. Call me after. But yeah, look, thank you everybody for your time today. This is going to be recorded. Well, it is recorded. Some snippets of it. Would anybody mind if I was to post them online? Maybe a couple are yeah, everybody good with that?
Yeah, thanks.
Amazing. Thanks for your time. I'm going to come up with some agendas because we've opened up a massive can of worms here. There are so many directions that we can take this. I'm going to come up with an agenda and I'm going to email you guys for our next session and what it will be around. Let's do this. Let's shape the future
Bye.
of AI in sales together. Thanks, everybody. Bye.
Thank you all. See you
Oh,
later.
great to meet you
Pleasure.
Bye,
guys.
guys.